what we did at home earlier in this series. He said the home games in 3 and 4 is where this thing turned. Let's turn the tables back on the Nuggets. But he also thought back to all the way to training camp and when the team went to Abu Dhabi. He said, we've been working on this cohesiveness, this togetherness for months. Now we put that all to the test, put it out there on the court, and get a win and extend this series.
Keep in mind, before the series, the Timberwolves hadn't lost 3 games in a row all season, facing potentially their 4th straight loss and their season over. Dave McMenamin with the very latest. Thank you so much. More on this game ahead as SportsCenter continues. Our NBA champ will deliver his plan to help the Timberwolves deal with Nikola Jokic and force a decisive Game 7. To golf for Xander Schauffele, took mark with a 9 under 62. He has a 3-stroke lead. Matt Barry anchors our coverage from Louisville. Brazil, that is Friday, September 6th. D. Wood, thank you. Coming up, can the Timberwolves rally and force a Game 7? The NBA Countdown crew standing by with their answers to that question. Plus, with the Celtics locked into the Eastern Conference Finals, which potential opponent poses the bigger threat to Boston's title dreams?
You take more shots.
I love him.
You take
he
those
knows
big shots.
I love him. He knows.
He
We go back a long way.
He has
Someday
good
they'll be
stories
saying that
about
about
you.
us,
I won't
by
tell
the way.
him. I can't
Yes,
share
he
them, but he has
does.
good stories about you, and you
Yes, he
know
does.
what they are.
And they're true. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Knicks win, Caitlin Clark struggles, and Tim Legler joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Denver Nuggets cruising past Minnesota last night, 112-97, to take a 3-2 lead in their series. That's 3 wins in a row for Denver, and the first home court win in the entire series. Nikola Jokic had 40 points on 15 of 22 shooting. Anthony Edwards had just 18 points on 5 of 15 shooting. Wilbon, you were bullish on Minnesota last week. How do you explain this turnaround?
Yeah, Tony, the turnaround came in Game 3. It came real quick. I mean, Game 5, there's no turnaround now. The turnaround, we saw it coming. Those of us who had to say, oh, my God, I was wrong. And it's largely because of Nikola Jokic. Not only because of Nikola Jokic, the entire team had a role. I mean, Aaron Gordon's been close to perfect. Jamal Murray has been back to his great self after like a game and a half of where is he? Michael Malone has been a motivational master. But there was a point last night, Tony, where Jokic, the MVP, for those of us who thought, okay, maybe we need some confirmation of Jokic's MVP this 3rd time. He had a stretch where he made moves that included a little skyhook off glass, and it was like, oh, my God, is he going Kareem? And then he had some footwork with his back to the basket and spinning around that made him look like Tim Duncan. And then he had some in the open court against Rudy Gobert, the defensive player of the year, where he looked like Akeem Olajuwon did a dream shake. And you're like, no. Oh, no. He can't have all that and make passes like Bill Walton. It was a stunning performance. And so there's a lot of places where they just eclipsed Minnesota, but you got to start with the MVP who received his award last night, I think.
Yeah. I will just say this. The series feels like it's over. I agree with you. It felt like it was over after Game 3. In the last 3 games, Denver has outscored Minnesota by 50 points. That's just too many points. I want to talk about 2 players. I want to talk about Jokic and Anthony Edwards. I'm going to start with Jokic, who last night had 40 points and 13 assists. And you mentioned Rudy Gobert. Gobert, the defensive player of the year, 4 or 5 times and this year. When he was the primary defender, Jokic went 8 of 9 on him. He ate his lunch, right? Yeah. Jokic plays 41 minutes. He has no turnovers. Our friend Shaquille O'Neal can lobby all he wants for anyone he wants for MVP. Because, Mike, MVP is not necessarily the best player. This guy, Jokic, is the best basketball player in the world right now, and I know you agree with that.
No
Anthony
doubt.
Edwards, he's a great talent. I want to stop the comparisons to Michael Jordan. I guess Michael Jordan had games like this, but in a 2-2 series in a Game 5, to go 5 of 15 and 1 of 5 from 3, let's just stop that comparison. This thing at the moment belongs to Jokic.
Oh, belongs to Jokic, no doubt, Tony. Not only is he the MVP, he is the best player in the world. And Anthony, believe me, I was around courtside for enough of Michael Jordan's games early on when he was 22 years old. they went about often, and he'd be the first to tell you, like Anthony Edwards' game did last night. So people forgot those. I haven't. They happened. But Jokic, and more Jokic. Over in the East, the Knicks bounced back, blew out the Pacers by 30. Jalen Brunson had 44, while the Knicks defense held the Pacers to just 91 total points. Just the other day, the Knicks appeared totally spent. So, Tony, what does last night's result say to you?
It says to me only that the Knicks are now up 3-2 in games. I don't see any great metaphor here. Jalen Brunson is the headline because he had 44 points in this game. Mike, in the 7 playoff games the Knicks have won this year, he's got 22, 24, 47, 41, 43, 29, and 44. In the last 5 games the Knicks have won this year, he's averaging 41. So his scoring appears linked to the Knicks' success. And then last night, it was rebounding as well. The Knicks out-rebounded Indiana last night 53-29. On the offensive end, it was 20-5, which meant that second chance points were 26-9 in favor of the Knicks. And that's why at the end of the game, Rick Carlisle said this was very embarrassing, because that's what happened. The Knicks thoroughly beat them.
They did, Tony. And so everything you said about the Knicks is, let me just rubber stamp that and let me move over to Indiana. Rick Carlisle played for tough teams. He played with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish and Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics. Rick Carlisle knows a thing or two about toughness. As a coach, he coached it. He had that in Dallas with Jason Kidd and Dirk Nowitzki. He doesn't have it now. And he's not going to say that. He can't say it. I'm saying it. It was unbelievable how soft, physically and mentally, the Indiana Pacers were last night, one game after trashing the Knicks. The Knicks were exhausted in game, 4? They were exhausted. They were injured. They could not physically rally themselves to even barely be awake in that game, and we understood that. But, Tony, last night, the Pacers offered no resistance at some point. That is why, to me, if I was able to ask him, Rick Carlisle would say he was embarrassed. What, the Pacers, seriously? And Draymond Green talked about this on the Turner telecast postgame. They didn't even begin to run through screens and exert themselves and spend the kind of physical energy you have to expend in a late in the series playoff game. So this series is over too. The Pacers don't have it. Tony,
I'm not sure of that.
It's over. The Knicks are going to go into Indiana in Game 6 and win Game 6 in that series. Okay.
I think the Pacers will win that particular game. I do. We move now to Caitlin Clark's WNBA regular season debut last night. She and the Indiana Fever were beaten decisively in Connecticut by the Sun, 92-71. Clark missed her first 4 shots, had no points in the first quarter, only 7 by halftime. She finished with 20 points and also 10 turnovers, an inglorious double-double. Wilbon, you and I both watched the game and texted during it. What did you make of Clark's debut?
Well, Tony, there's so much to make of it. And, you know, sadly, the conversation nationally will be about just the numbers. And the numbers do matter, particularly the 10 turnovers. But as you and I talked about this game like sort of old-fashioned sports writers, one of your texts just said she is in way over her head at the moment. It'll take some time. And, of course, I had the same thought. And she may get there. Hope she gets there. She may not. But these other players, as you said, bigger, faster, stronger, at least as talented, more experience. I mean, you know, you look at a game. I look at a game last night with Asia Wilson in another game. Asia Wilson's so much better than Caitlin Clark. They're not to be compared yet. And I understand the moment, the historic level of interest Caitlin Clark has brought to women's basketball. All of that is to be credited. Yeah. But now we're in pro basketball. And the women in that league don't have to care about that. Some may not. But she's not ready for that yet. So it's like, let's check back. I'll check back in June
those opportunities. Don't look for more or less. Like, just stay within that, present moment, and I think you'll find a way to succeed.
Man, looks made for Miami. Dan Orlovsky, Marcus Spears, back with us. Swagoo, I'm going to start with you. OBJ in the Miami fold. Now the offseason in the rearview mirror.
Yep.
Which AFC East team do you believe is best positioned to win this division?
The Jets. And I know people think about it from Aaron Rodgers, and obviously that's a great reason to think about it defensively. Like, if you think about this defense, if you gave this defense 17 points a game, you probably win 11 games in the NFL. Okay. So more than us just getting super excited about what they could be offensively if they stay healthy and he's protected, and those are questions that are real because of health and older guys. Defensively, the New York Jets are still elite and cream of the crop. And this team right now, if you think about what they have the potential to do, barring these things happening, defensively they don't have a question. So if you think about every other unit in this division, Josh Allen breaking in new wide receivers, need to figure out what that offense is going to look like. I think they're going to be really good, but I think you got to see what it looks like. You think about the Miami Dolphins, Tua played well, had a great regular season. What is he in the playoffs, right? Defense travels to the playoffs all the time, right? And then you think about New England, TBD.
Yeah. No,
the New York Jets have the one unit in this division that we can all hang our hats on and bet on and feel comfortable with that bet. Yeah. And if the offense stays healthy, a two-time MVP that we all think is going to play well, confidence in them, man.
Yeah, it's the Bills for me, but in regards to the Jets, the reality is if they stay healthy for the most part, it's the best team Aaron Rodgers has played on in 10 years, talent-wise. That's how good they are. Yep. Legit Super Bowl contenders, if they can do that. Now, that's a big roll of dice. I say Buffalo, and I know there's Stephon Diggs is not there, and obviously they lost some other talent specifically on their back end. But I do believe the drafting and development in this organization is something that they hang their hat on. Josh Allen is still there. Khalil Shakir, a young wide receiver. Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, two really good tight ends. James Cook is a pass-catching kind of a dual-threat back. And, yeah, they're going to have to get some younger players to step up. And Keon Coleman, their draft pick out of Florida State, is going to have a huge year. But I think if Josh Allen is willing to play the way that we've seen Patrick Mahomes play over the past couple of years, and we've talked about this, a little bit of like a point guard plus. It's not just about ball distribution because you're too talented to do that, but it's about being very efficient with your matchups. If he can do that and that defense can continue to play that top 10 level football, Buffalo's the favorite in that division.
All right. Reason they've won 4 straight division titles. Hey, Swagoo, let's go back to the Dolphins, flip it offensively. All right, now they got OBJ, they got Jalen Waddle, they got Tyreek Hill, they have the backfield. What offensive skill position group do you like across the league?
Oh, man, I'm blank. Oh, the Eagles.
Okay.
Eagles and Saquon. But more importantly, I was thinking in that division, so I went blank.
Sure.
In the league, to me, when you look at A.J. Brown and Devontae, that's two legitimate number one wide receivers, I believe. The offensive line lost Jason Kelce. Welcome, Jason Kelce, to the ESPN family. That's a big deal with the way that they run this offense. But I still have a lot of belief that this team with Kellen Moore, they made those changes at the defensive and offensive coordinator position. But offensively, Saquon, his ability not only to run in between the tackles, Dan mentioned it earlier today. This will be the best offensive line he's played against.
Not even close.
Played behind in his career. Yeah. You think about Jalen Hurts, and if they can get back to some semblance of creating that unknown for defenses with the RPO in the backfield, this could be devastating. Saquon Barkley with room, A.J. Brown with the ability to maybe have stacked boxes because this team is running the football really successfully. We complain.
He's special, Michael. He's special. He's a very unique player. For a guard to operate in his favorite comfort zone is basically between the elbows extended out to half court. So basically that middle third of the floor. And very few guards have great success in that area of the floor, getting to their spots and making mid-range contested lean-back jump shots, but that is his favorite shot. He can stop on a dime and lean back and get that shot off just that half second before you're able to react to him stopping. It's a major advantage that he has. And look, the other component you saw the other night, and you're right, man, fourth quarter, he makes 5 jumpers in that quarter. And Luka and Kyrie combined for 3 in that quarter. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander outscored the 2 of those guys combined, and he made a series of tough jump shots, which tells you he's made for the moment. He's made for pressure shots. He's made for the bright lights. He embraces it. He ran toward it. And now it's going to be up to Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving to have a response because they were nowhere near good enough for Dallas to to win this series in Game 4. They've got to be significantly better going forward.
All right, Tim, we'll get you out of here on this, and we're going to ask you to do it really quick, 15 seconds or less. You have Boston and Cleveland out on the court tonight. Is your thought that Boston closes it out tonight?
I think so, Tony. The line is 16. That tells you a lot, I think. The line is 16. You don't see that in playoff games typically in a 3-1 series. Look, Cleveland, they've run out of firepower. It would take a Miami Heat-like three-point shooting performance like they had in Game 2 against Boston when Miami made 23 threes or whatever it was. It's going to take something like that to be in the game. Boston understands the importance of ending this series so they don't have to take another road trip and tie this thing up for 2 more days. They can sit back and wait and let the Pacers and Knicks beat the hell out of each other.
Thank you as always, Tim. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, big news involving the favorite for this week's Preakness Stakes.
They still running that thing? Is that still going off?
Yeah, they are.
Who should be
They're
favored to win the PGA Championship? The tournament that
They're
kicks
running that
us
thing,
off
too.
the air the rest of this week.
They're running that.
Says-
Yeah, Happy time, people. Happy 55th birthday, Emmitt Smith. If he's not the greatest running back of all time, he's close. Smith has the most career rushing yards, 18,355, mostly with the Dallas Cowboys. He has the most career rushing touchdowns, 164, almost all with the Cowboys. He has the most career rushing attempts, 4,409. There are other great running backs we can name that are his peers, certainly. Jim Brown, Walter Payton, O.J. Simpson, maybe Barry Sanders. But Emmitt is right there. He was on 3 Super Bowl champions with the Cowboys, and he's in the Hall of Fame with the other triplets from the Cowboys, Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin.
Tony, if I just talk about my favorite running backs of all time, and of course we're old enough to have lived in an era where running backs were damn near as important as quarterbacks on the field, Walter Payton and Emmitt Smith. That I was too young to see Jim Brown except the last year of his career. Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, that's my list.
Happy anniversary, Len Barker. On this day 43 years ago, the Cleveland right-hander threw a perfect game at home against Toronto in front of fewer than 8,000 fans on a cold, wet night in Cleveland. That was the 10th perfect game in baseball history. Barker's catcher, Ron Hasse, is the only catcher to catch 2 perfect games. Hasse also caught Dennis Martinez's perfect game for Montreal in 1991. Hasse played 14 years in the majors for Cleveland, Oakland, the Yankees, White Sox, Montreal, and the Cubs. He had a career batting average of .266, ordinary numbers like Barker's 74 and 76 record and 4.34 ERA. By the way, Danny Ainge went 0 for 2 that night against Barker.
Perfect game, Tony. It seems so much bigger deal, that and no hitters once upon a time. By the way, people wondering why I didn't mention Gale Sayers. He's in a category like by himself. He didn't count with the rest of them. That's my idol, not just my favorite running back.
Happy trails to elimination for the Boston Bruins. Bruins coach Jim Montgomery called last night's Game 5, quote, our best game in the series, unquote. And as a result of Boston's 2-1 win in Florida, that series continues. Boston won an elimination game as goalie Jeremy Swayman made 28 saves, including a close-range shot by Florida's Sam Reinhart with 8 seconds left in the game. Game 6 is in Boston Friday night. The Edmonton Oilers tied their series with Vancouver at 2-2 last night by beating the Canucks 3-2. Evan Bouchard scored with 39 seconds left in the game, just 62 seconds after Vancouver's Dakota Joshua had tied the game at 2 after Vancouver pulled its goalie. In his first playoff start ever, Calvin Pickard made 19 saves and he got the win.
Tony, you feel exhausted after you watch those games. And I only watched the third period of each. They were mesmerizing. I mean, you're breathless after you watch. You know how those Stanley Cup games are that are closer to 1-goal games and goaltenders out of net? And you just can't believe the level of excitement people should watch Stanley Cup playoffs.
Let's go to the big finish if we could. PGA Championship tees off tomorrow. Who would you like to see win it?
Well, you know, Tony, I root for Morikawa and Finau. I'd be thrilled if one of them won it. I think they'll be on the board. How about that? They'll be close. They'll be in it. Bob Baffert scratched Preakness' favorite Muth after the horse's fever spiked overnight. That's significant, isn't it?
Of course, it's the favorite horse. I mean, this helps Mystic Dan, right? And trainer Kenny Perry helps them. Kenny McPeak, rather. Chris Sale gave up just 2 hits over 7 shutout innings in a win over your Cubs. How'd that taste?
And it tastes bad that the Cubs have been shut out back-to-back nights in Atlanta. Let's get the hell out of Georgia. A miniature poodle named Sage won the Westminster Dog Show. You okay with that?
Not a miniature poodle guy. I'm a Chessie guy. Best dog in the world. Last one, Angel Reese makes her regular season debut tonight for the Sky at the Wings. What do you expect from her?
I expect more. Camila Cardoso was out there with her, but she's injured. You know, I expect a nice debut from Miss Angel Reese. That's what I'm hoping for.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. Happy birthday, Moni.
I'm Mike Wilbon. We're bumped by the PGA Championship until Monday, knuckleheads. And now, the SportsCenter.
The Thunder executing their defensive game plan. The Mavericks need to get their big guns rolling. Luka not necessarily healthy right now. Kyrie might have to take the lead.
The Mavericks have proven, though, they can win when he scores under double digits. He did have 9 points in Game 2, which was a Mavericks win. On the other side, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a monster Game 4 to help OKC even this series. What is he saying about how he plans to carry that over into tonight's home Game 5?
Yeah, the thing that SGA was most excited about, I think proudest of, was the blend of taking over and trusting his teammates. I mean, it was an absolute mid-range masterpiece. And there was a stretch in the fourth quarter where he hit shots on 4 straight possessions, each one tougher than the other. And it's, uh-oh, here comes SGA. But he didn't go into hero mode at that point. The defense collapsed him. He hits Chet Holmgren for the go-ahead 3. A couple of possessions later, sprays it out to Lou Dort. He hits another 3. So really that blend of kind of knowing when to take the lead and when to trust your teammates. And, you know, like with Kyrie, make the right play. And obviously the Oklahoma City teammates deliver for SGA.
Certainly a tough task for SGA, but not as tough as Tim McMahon having to battle through the sound check ahead of Game 5 in OKC. It's a best-of-3 series. That series knotted up 2 games apiece. Tim, much appreciated. Now, loser of tonight's Mavs Thunder game will be down 3 games to 2, similar to the Timberwolves, who have lost 3 straight in their series against the defending champs. And what about the Pacers, who were blown out last night by Jalen Brunson and the Knicks at MSG? For more, how about a little bonus PTI with Tony and Mike?
All right, Wilbon, who do you trust more to force Game 7, Timberwolves or Pacers?
Ooh, I'm challenged to pick either one of those two because I don't think either one of them is going to force a Game 7. If I got to pick one, Minnesota is not forcing a Game 7. It's just not. I mean, Minnesota is done. And they were done shockingly after Game 3 when they were still up 2-1. After turning in like a performance where they just dismantled a champion, they're done. So I'm just dismissing them. And that's a turnabout for me, Tony, 180 degrees from where I was after Game 2. But the Pacers, I don't think they can do it either. A little bit more faith in them, but the Pacers showed no toughness. Halliburton has these games where he can dominate the game and go for 35 and 12, and then he has games where he takes 9 shots, is not going to get it done. And they can't figure out how to guard Jalen Brunson. That speaks more to Brunson's brilliance than Indiana's own deficiencies. But mentally and physically, not tough enough. Not tough enough for these Knicks, who are both.
I think Indiana's going to win Game 6. I
Whoa.
do. I think they're going to win Game 6. I understand that the last 2 games in this series have been blowouts, but the first 3, I believe, were decided by 4 points and 9 points and 5 points, which means those are pretty even teams, right?
Yeah.
I think Indiana is helped by going back home. I think they're helped by the where they've already won twice. I think they're helped by the embarrassment in New York. And I agree with you about Tyrese Halliburton. You can't take 9 shots. You got to take more than 9 shots. You're the best player on the team. You've got to score more points than that. But I not only think they have a better chance, and I agree with you about Minnesota not having a chance. I not only think they have a better chance, I actually do think they're going to win Game 6. I'm not saying anything about 7, but I think they'll force a Game 7. I do.
And Tony, one thing that does help the Pacers, I agree with you, is the embarrassment of last night. But one thing that helps the Knicks is an extra day of rest because of the scheduling of Caitlin Clark's opener with the fever. there's an extra day in that series, an extra day off. And so the Knicks, whose only night of struggle was because they were spent, they're going to get an extra day. This is over. That's it. We're done. Back to you.
Gentlemen, thank you. Other stories we are following. How about the Giants? Who are going to be on HBO's Hard Knocks in the first offseason version of the series. The turnaround after owner John Mara said in 2020 the team would never do the show. Playoff version. Stars winger Rupe Hintz is out for tonight's Game 5 against the Mavs. An upper body injury ails him. He blocked a shot. He was cross-checked before leaving Game 4. Dallas is up 3-1 in that series. Astros pitcher Ronel Blanco, who was ejected from last night's game after umpires found a foreign substance on his glove, has been suspended 10 games. Blanco, you might remember, threw a no-hitter in his season debut. Rory McIlroy says the resignation of Jimmy Dunn, the architect of the initial agreement between the Saudis and the PGA Tour, leaves him less confident that there will be a merger with LIV Golf. Talks have been ongoing. Meanwhile, a Georgia man pled guilty to transporting stolen goods for taking Masters memorabilia from a warehouse and selling it in Florida. The scheme lasted for more than a decade. It included green jackets from Arnold Palmer and Ben Hogan. Richard Glebensky made $5 million from the scheme, but now faces up to 10 years in prison.
All last year about where is the identity of the Philadelphia Eagles. So not only do I think the skill positions are elite, and they got two guys on the outside that are true number ones, I think the running back addition with the guy that can carry the ball out of the backfield but also be a part of a screen game that should be implemented is going to make them devastating to defend.
Swagoo, I'm glad that you focused on just one team, one position group, because overachiever Dan O over here, you sort of wanted to give us a power rank. Are we going 1 through 32, or are we just doing a...
I won't go with 1 through 32. No, it's an hour show tonight, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm going to go...
Go ahead.
I'm going to go my top 5. I believe that San Francisco's number 1. Now, San Francisco's got to keep them all. You know, we'll see. There's a lot of conversation. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, CMC, and they draft Ricky Pearsall. Marcus just mentioned Philly. Absolutely love Philadelphia. I still say that Cincinnati is that top unit. I've talked about this. T. Higgins motivated. Jamar Chase is a stud. And then Jermaine Burton, America, get used to hearing that name. Minnesota's loaded with Addison and J.J. Hawkinson is fantastic. And then Miami, I still believe because those two dynamic wide receivers in OBJ, skill group-wise, is fantastic.
So it's hard for me not to have, if you got a top 5, it's hard for me not to have Detroit in it, bro.
Detroit, Jamison Williams has got to elevate. Jamison Williams has got to go.
The most
a lot of
important
health
thing
questions health questions on the Vikings with Hawkins coming off the knee. But listen, if you're going to scatter shot with your answers, if you're going to go 5, you're bound to get something right. So that's good. That was good.
I'm a volume shooter.
Dan Orlovsky. Swagoo, thank you.
I'm mad that you didn't put
I'm basically Luka.
No, you're not.
Everybody in the building excited to see the debut for Caitlin Clark.
Here we go. Here we go.
There are the first points in the WNBA career of Caitlin Clark.
I thought it took me a little while to settle into the game. The more games I play, the more comfortable I'm going to get.
Here's Clark. She got it. Clark off a screen, gets a look, and hits. Clark with a little more zest in her attack. The Connecticut Sun spoiled the debut of Caitlin Clark. 92-71 the final.
We saw the good, the bad, the ugly in Caitlin Clark's debut. She saw it too, led the Fever with points, 3-pointers, and steals, was tied for the team lead in assists. She also had 10 turnovers in the game, a WNBA record for the most in a career debut. Clark's first home game will be tomorrow against the New York Liberty.
Day baseball at Camden Yards. Orioles, Blue Jays, bird battle. Jordan Westburg leading off, first time in his career. So he's never, Gary, done this. Oh, yeah. Home run from the leadoff spot. Never happened. Homered 7 times this season, but first time, that's okay. Don't give that fan a contract. Hose water for all. Love it. We're just getting more diversified with our dispensing of the water. Top 3, Bo Bichette is there. Bo Bichette coming through for Toronto. That's into right. Anthony Santander cannot make the grab.
Oh, no.
2 runs are going to come in. So it hurt, but at least it was costly. Bichette will be credited with a 2-run double. It's now 2-1. Toronto trying to sweep the Orioles, something that has not happened to the O's since Adley Rutschman broke through. Since he broke into the bigs. Keep that in mind. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa on defensive.